The sun had set over the burning plains of Karbala. The battle was over. The companions of Imam Hussain ibn Ali had fallen one after another. The tents of the Ahlul Bayt stood surrounded by grief, silence, and smoke rising from the devastated camp. But Karbala had not ended. In many ways, it was only beginning. Inside the camp remained the survivors from the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him, women, children, and one surviving imam.
Imam Ali ibn Hussain Zayn al-Abidin. Weak from illness but alive by the will of Allah, Imam Zayn al-Abidin now carried the burden of preserving the message of Karbala.
And beside him stood the lioness of Bani Hashim, Zaynab Bint Ali, the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the granddaughter of Muhammad, the sister of Imam Hussain. She had witnessed every tragedy of Ashura with her own eyes. She saw the thirst of the children. She saw the martyrdom of Abbas ibn Ali. She saw the companions fall. And, finally, she saw Imam Hussain left alone on the plains of Karbala. As night covered the battlefield, the enemies moved through the camp. The tents were attacked. Fear spread among the children.
The surviving women gathered the terrified young ones close together as flames rose into the night sky. Little girls cried for their fathers. Children searched for their brothers.
The pain of Ashura had entered a new phase. Now began the suffering of captivity. Yet even in that darkness, something powerful remained alive: faith.
The enemies believed they had silenced Imam Hussain through the sword, but they did not understand one thing. The message of Karbala could not be killed, because the survivors of Karbala would carry it to the world.
The night after Ashura became one of the most heartbreaking nights in Islamic history. The family of the Prophet sat surrounded by devastation.
The desert wind blew across the battlefield, where the bodies of the martyrs remained beneath the open sky. Every direction carried memories of sacrifice. For the enemies, this was victory. For the Ahlul Bayt, this was the beginning of a divine mission, a mission to expose truth, a mission to preserve the sacrifice of Imam Hussain forever. And at the center of this mission stood Sayyida Zaynab. History remembers her not only as a grieving sister, but as the voice of Karbala.
The next morning, the prisoners were prepared for a painful journey. From Karbala to Kufa.
From Karbala to Kufa, the journey in that time took days across the desert, by horse or camel caravan.
The women and children of the Ahlul Bayt were forced to travel under guard through the burning desert. Exhausted children walked in fear. The survivors carried grief beyond words. Yet despite everything, the dignity of the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him, remained unbroken. As the caravan approached Kufa, crowds gathered to watch. Some people had been misled by propaganda. Others had no idea who these prisoners truly were. But when the people realized that these were the family members of Rasulullah, peace be upon him, shock spread through the city. Tears appeared in the eyes of many. The same city that had written thousands of letters to Imam Hussain now watched his family enter as prisoners. And then came one of the most powerful moments after Karbala. Sayyida Zaynab stood before the people of Kufa and spoke. Her words struck hearts like thunder. She reminded them of their betrayal, their broken promises, their abandonment of Imam Hussain. The city fell silent. People cried openly. Some lowered their heads in shame. Others realized the enormity of what had happened for the first time. This was no longer simply a political event. This was the tragedy of the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And then Imam Zayn al-Abidin spoke. Despite illness, grief, and captivity, his words carried strength and dignity. He introduced himself to the people. I am the son of Makkah and Mina. I am the son of Muhammad al-Mustafa. These speeches shook Kufa deeply. The rulers had won militarily, but morally, the truth was beginning to emerge, and Karbala was now spreading from battlefield to hearts. From Kufa, the prisoners were taken toward Damascus, where Yazid I ruled. The journey was long and painful, but every city they passed became another place where the truth of Karbala spread. People asked questions. Who were these prisoners? Why were the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him, being treated this way? And slowly, hearts began changing. When the caravan entered Damascus, the rulers expected a celebration of victory. Instead, the presence of the al-Bayt created unease, because the dignity of the prisoners stood in complete contrast to the cruelty of what had happened. In the court of Yazid, Sayyida Zaynab once again stood with unmatched courage. Despite chains, grief, and captivity, she spoke fearlessly. She exposed tyranny directly. She defended Imam Hussain openly. And she made it clear that the message of Karbala had survived. History would remember this moment forever, because while the battlefield had belonged to armies, the aftermath belonged to truth. Imam Zayn al-Abidin also addressed the people with powerful words. He reminded them who the Ahlul Bayt were. He reminded them of their connection to Rasulullah, peace be upon him, and many in Damascus began weeping. The attempt to present Karbala as a victory was collapsing, because now the people could see the reality with their own eyes. This was not the defeat of rebels. This was the suffering of the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. As time passed, the tragedy of Karbala became more than a historical event. It became a living message, a message carried by the tears, speeches, and sacrifices of the Ahlul Bayt. Imam Hussain had fallen on the battlefield, but through Sayyida Zaynab and Imam Zayn al-Abidin, his mission survived. That is why many scholars say Karbala was protected by Zaynab, because after Ashura, when swords became silent, her words shook empires. The rulers believed military power could erase truth. But Karbala proved otherwise, because truth carried by sacrifice cannot be destroyed. Centuries passed, empires disappeared, kings vanished into history. Yet every year, millions still remember Ashura. They remember the thirst of the children, the loyalty of Abbas, the patience of Zaynab, and the sacrifice of Imam Hussain. Karbala became a symbol for all generations, a symbol that teaches humanity. Never bow before oppression, never sell truth for power, and never abandon justice, even when standing alone. Today, the message of Imam Hussain continues inspiring hearts across the world, because Karbala was never only about one battle. It was about preserving Islam through sacrifice. And perhaps that is why Imam Hussein's message never died, because while armies ended the battle, the Ahlul Bayt carried the truth beyond Karbala, and through their courage, the world would forever remember. Every day can become Ashura, and every land can become Karbala.